the conference is not open yet. They will be opening soon. So the webinar today is about explain like and 5 strategy. It's a strategy I put into place in my classroom, and I'm hoping it would interest you to try it out. So to start, I'm just going to present myself. I'm Emilie. I'm a professor in the Mechanical Engineering Technology program at La Cité in Ottawa. I've been teaching full-time for the past 3 years. So everything started with that theory when I saw that quote from Albert Einstein that really showed that when you understand it well, you can explain it well and probably simplify it. And probably as professors and teachers, when you're in classroom, you probably notice that if you don't understand a subject clearly well enough, it would be hard to explain to them, to a student, to make them understand and simplify it for them to be able to understand. So everything started with this, and I was asking myself, how can we simplify it for every student to understand it? How they can use it themselves to help them understand and comprehend the material in the classroom. So I became with the Explain Like I'm 5 strategy, which helped the student understanding the complex and subject in a course and simplify it and give them learning opportunity that could be fun and help them by synthesizing concept and using drawing and word and stuff. So I based myself on the Richard Feynman technique. So one thing that it says, that Richard said a lot, it's not enough to just copy down the information or the class note and know the definition by heart, but they really need to understand it and how to apply them and when to apply the information in the classroom. So the Feynman technique is separate in 4 different steps, and I'm going to show you the 4 different steps. The first step is identifying the subject. So usually you'll take a white page and at the top write the subject. It's really important when it's complex subject to divide it in subsection, so it's easier to understand it. And dividing in subsection is like each part can be understand more accurately for the student. I give an example on my slide. It's the atomic theory. You can divide it in smaller subject like atom, molecule, chemical bonds, so make them fully understand. So as a package, it helps them understand better. Then the second step is the explanation. The goal is really to give the explanation as simple as they can. They can use sketch if necessary. It's really helpful most of the time. When the explanation is complete, it should be adequate for a beginner level of understanding. So anybody could understand, even if you didn't take the class. The next step is proofreading. So you should go proofread what your explanation that you made, add some detail if it's unclear. Also go to resource to add information, add detail, always, and make them more understandable and easier to understand. The step 1, 2, 3 should be like repeat in a loop until like you're satisfied with the look. The 4th step is to edit. So the editing is just go back in the text and simplify even further, add sketch, also modify the explanation in a way to have a simpler term or use analogy to make everything clear and concise. All the ambiguous information should be presented in an alternate format to avoid any confusion. So you really want it simpler and put it nicely that everybody can understand. At this step, I'll also add often definition of word and to help further the understanding. So this is an example. So the method to use it quick, I always present that diagram to the student to show them. It's to use short sentence and simple word. The use of diagram, image, tables, using analogy, using timeline or process in steps. It's all often useful. So this is an example I made for one of my class with my student. So it's just the definition of an atom. If you see at the top, I put the definition, which was fairly simple. It was only one line. But then I add a drawing and show component with arrows, and then add definition, because like matter, what is a matter? So I add a definition. So that's really the classic pen and paper theory that I asked for about the atom. So then I was thinking how to apply this in a classroom, and I found there's so many possibilities in a classroom context. It's important to realize that this can be applied every type of class that you teach. Like I teach mostly physics class and really eye on equation and theory and stuff like that, but I also work in more like law type class, or basically every class. I haven't found a class yet that this can be applied to. Even more practical class could be useful, because you could add methodology and help simplify for the student. What's nice, it's something that can be made by the student in the classroom, but it can also be made by the student. So I personally alternate, depend on the class. Sometimes I make the student do it, and sometimes I do it to the student in addition to the class note to help them. And there's different ways to do it. Sometimes I put them in a team to do it, and together I found they learn a lot more. To give an example, one of my classes I teach the atomic theory, and every year the marks for that exam related to that was awful, and they were failing and not doing well. And this year I tried this way for the first time. So I put them in a group, and they can collaborate to do one big sheet of explanation together. And so far, my average of the class was so much better, and the student understand. And when I talked to them, I could see like they understand the concept, because what they lack personally, one of their classmates could help them do it. You could also do different teams across the classroom. So that experience, everybody had the same team, but you could also separate a big subject in smaller team, and then they could present the info to the other one, so it could be easier for them to understand. So it become a big common work as the whole classroom for one big subject. It can be done at classroom. We also encourage them to do it at home. Even in class, they're not with me. I always tell them that's something you guys can do by yourself. If there's a class, there's something you don't understand, just helping you to get better at a subject and really understand it instead of just knowing it. I have some of my students that show me they did it in other class that wasn't me teaching, just to help them understand more. So there's so much possibilities you can do. It can also do an activity for fun in the classroom, but also use it as an evaluation in the classroom. And they really liked it. So this is what I like. Then this is a classic pen and paper strategy I came up with. But then I was thinking, what if I combine it with educational technology tool to make it more interesting and really engaging with the student? I found there were an infinite amount of possibilities to apply that in a classroom. I just wanted to put a little, before talking about how to use it with technology, just thinking, making you have a reflection about the use of technology in a classroom. It's really, the technology can be really beneficial, and it also can help increase the student engagement and create interactive learning opportunities, but you have to be careful that you need to improve the learning experience and not in the comprehension. Like you can, it's difficult to just use it for the sake of using technology. Sometimes it make the activity more heavy, and the student end up not really learning because they're just concentrating on using the technology. So I'm going to propose to you 4 different methods that I found. There's many more than those 4. as Gina said, intentional use is important. So I'm suggesting 4 different ways of doing it. It's not the only 4 way that exists. That's the 4 that I try in my classroom and I tested it, so I can attest of my experience using it. So it's really nice. I'm going to show you an example. It's all the one that I made, but one, for example, I made them with my students as they saw stuff, and I draw it on the whiteboard, and then I just did a nicer version using a computer. But it's really nice to do as a common thing with the classroom. So the first one I'm going to show you, it's a similar technique to the pen and paper approach, so it doesn't look different. It's pretty much the exact same thing. So you put the equation, you put a definition and you add to it. I wanted to show you guys this one to show you people who has more like equation type class that it could be done. So I'm using it in my class of thermodynamics, which they have so much equation and they're long equation. There's a lot of stuff, and my students get really confused pretty quick with all the equation. So for every equation we have in class, we do one of these as a classroom together, so everybody can understand clearly what it is. So instead of writing a definition, I wrote the equation, and then we just add detail around it. So this is more towards similar to the pen and paper approach, where you can use like everything from the Microsoft suite could work. Like this one, to make it, I use PowerPoint. I like PowerPoint to do something quick because it's easy to use. You can move stuff around pretty easily. You can do equation. That's a big thing with everything. I'm going to show you if people use equation. There's a lot of program doesn't allow you to do equation properly, but every project from Microsoft help you to help do the equation more easily and look nicer and more neat. So that's a way of doing it. I like this way because it's simple, and for the student, when I introduce, like my first year student, the first time I introduce that concept, I make them use PowerPoint because most of them used it before. They're more familiar, and it's less out there, and there's some a bit. They can find template online to help them get going. The second one is the interactive image. I really like this one for 2 different type of thing. The interactive image, it's fun for study review for students or to add detail, like the 4th step in Feynman technique. I like, sometimes I do a full one and just use the interactive image for the 4th step to add like definition to words. So especially if you have a long explanation with a lot of complicated words that some people may know but may not know. What's fun is you could do mouse over like that, and it shows what it is, what it means. So it could be really nice for definition. Again, in the atomic theory with my students, they had a big definition that they had to write, and I made them go over every word and write a definition in their own word to make a big interactive image like that. So it was pretty nice. For this one wasn't used with PowerPoint, that's why I was coming. This one, there's a lot of online program for it. I personally use Genially. I use a lot of Genially because it's fun with the interaction. They allow you to do it. So mouse over is pretty nice. For this one, there's different program. I'm not sure all they use. Genially, it's Genially. If you set the bottom left of the corner, it's yeah. Thank you, everybody that picked the link. Genially, it's pretty great. The whole presentation, I made it with Genially. In fact, I'm not a sponsor. I just like that very much. So there's different way of showing. I like for equation, like this one is one, again, I did initially like the other one I showed you earlier, but I like this one because it makes them student reviews like, oh, I know what it is, but if they have a doubt, they can just mouse over without having the answer right in front of their eyes. So my students like this one to help them study, especially if it's they're not sure because they're allowed their equation in an exam, but not necessarily they don't have time to go find a definition and all. The third one is Infographic. Infographic, for people who doesn't know what it is, it's a sheet that allow, usually it's a bigger sheet that allow you to have like a text and explanation and image and graphic, and so it explains stuff easily. They act kind of a poster. So I just made up a quick one to show you. That's a different infographic for one of my class. It just can show you what it is and do it, graph it, an example. I'm a big fan of infographic. I use them a lot in my class, even if it's just to explain assignment or like all the marks are calculated. Students love it, and to make it like more, it's pretty to look at, it's understand. You just put the quick info. So you can use. Yeah, I create the infographic with Genially, but there's other one I can suggest. There's PictoChart that work. I could write them all down at the end, or if somebody want to write it down. There's also Venngage. Venngage is pretty nice. It's the prettiest of them all. They're just, it's hard to, if you don't pay, you cannot freely export them. Canva work well too. It's my third one that I use. Yeah. So all those are free. You have like a free version and a paid version, but you can do a lot with the free. I also do infographic with everything from the Microsoft suite, like PowerPoint or Word. It's not as easy, but it's possible. So infographic, it's really nice to use it and to do kind of a poster of it to put it on the wall. So this year, I just did that with my student. I made them do a poster about a subject, and usually it was a huge research. It was 15-page of writing down, and some students give me like 30 pages of writing down from info from everywhere, and it took them weeks to just write it down. And the whole goal of the project was to do the research and inform themselves. So I changed, instead of doing your research and give me a big paper, they had to present me the info on in the index like I'm 5-tier method with a poster or an infographic. And at first they were a bit reluctant, but at the end they all loved it. I had a lot of feedback, and it was much quicker for them to use. I had great stuff that looked pretty nice, and they all loved the experience. And in the end they said, yeah, it was better to then write 15 pages of material. And in the end, a little bonus, it was much easier for me to mark and see like it's quicker and all the info is the same. So it was the same educational goal, was to do them research and inform themselves about the subject, but presented a different way, where it's a little bit more fun, I found, for them. And fun for me was I got so many good poster, and then we put them all on the wall, and I did a contest who did it better, and they won a chocolate bar at the end. So it was fun activity to do in the classroom. The last one that I wanted to show you guys is the mind maps. I don't know if some of you use mind maps. I love mind maps for that theory, because you can basically, you start with subject at the middle of the bubble, and then you can add definition around it, and then you can add further explanation as you go and go more precise and more, even though, and add definition and even go more and more and more. And like I showed you guys a small one because it's easy, and basically I made it up for this presentation in English, since everything I teach is in French. I had to translate everything, but you can have a big one. What I like with that one is you have the possibility to do a community within your classroom. So you can do a big one for the whole semester. So you start with a subject and just branch out on different subjects. And what I love is every student can add information to it, and you can do like either do it in the classroom together, the one I do right now with my classroom, every beginning of class, we just add to it from the last class material, and we just add info and help them with the studying, and always go simpler, simple words, simple definition. But there's a way or two to do it online that, as an assignment, student has to populate it. So basically become kind of a discussion board related to the class, but within a presentation. And it's helped them study, and they also have less question with the student, like, what's on the exam? I don't know what to study. Everything's clear. And because I work as a moderator, it worked pretty well. So the mind map are really great for that. And I found they really feel the purpose of the Explain Like I'm 5, because you can always add detail to it. Yeah, it also helped a grilled study tool, and they built it. So I found it's always better when they build a thing that I give them to them and they don't know what to do after with it. So you could do the mind map with Microsoft. I use MindMeister. I'm gonna write it down. MindMeister, I really like it. There's a few programs out there that exist. I personally like MindMeister because it is visually pleasing, and I like my stuff to be really pleasing to the eyes, and they have colors, and they also have some template you can use. It's also a free, MindMeister is also free. You have a paid option, but you can also add to it pretty easily. So thank you. That's the 4-ad program. Does anybody have any question? So this presentation was to help you, inspire you to do something like that in your classroom, and I really hope you try to use. And yeah, I can repeat the name. I can also write them down in the chat if we want. So for I'll go in the chat. So my map, I use MindMeister. Graphic. The most challenging part is always get it more simple. Sometimes I find it's more simple, and always use. One of my colleagues always give my stuff to her. I'm like, is it simple enough? Can you understand? You always have to be in your mind that somebody who doesn't understand. And what I like is she's not in the same field as me at all. So she really can look at it, and there are words that she doesn't understand. And I always tell the student, if they do it for themselves, to also try to show them to somebody else. Because for me, it's that when you know exactly what you're talking about, it's hard to be simple. Especially as a teacher, when you teach a material, you have tendency to know it inside out. And to always simplify it, it's really the most challenging part. Thank you for attending. Thank you, everybody. Yes, they definitely had better research. Um, because yeah, they found before it was a research about material, and I found they got like basically they try to cram as much material as they can in 15 page and add so much info that was not necessary. So it made them to look what was important and what I asked. Um, so really get to the point and see what's better. And it's often, I don't know about other work field, but my field, uh, uh, like being able to like go say the information and remove everything that's around is really, really important. So it's really helpful for that. So I found my marks were a lot better, and I found they learned a lot more about uh, their subject and what really was important in the subject. And even if you're right, sometimes the random comments add to their marks because they miss sometime and they add a thing that helped them. But in general, I found everything was better. And in the exam, I found it was so much better because that class is the class I used it a lot. It used to be such a theory heavy class where I was in front for 3 hours talking and I was tired of doing that. I was finding myself really boring. So I found with doing this and adding in the classroom, doing it, they understand it really well. So when I ask them a question in the exam, like explain me this, everybody got so much good mark. Like as so many students, like really the mark were low before. I never had a student over 90, and this year I had 4 over 90 in a class of like 25 students, which never happened before. So it's the first year where I was trying this and I used it a lot, and overall it was a great experience. If you want to, for the first time to try it out, what I did, I brought big sheet in my classroom and colored pencil, and they had some. I kind of did a reverse classroom, so they had to read and listen to video as an assignment, and then they came to the class. And the first thing I did, right now, I gave them each in small group. I gave them each a big sheet and I explained them basically what I present to you in the first place, what to do, and I was like, explain what you learned from the video. And because some of the students didn't do the video or didn't read properly, they help each other to complete their sheet. And then I pass around the classroom and ask them question about, is that clear enough? Like, do you think I would understand if I didn't know anything about it? And just try to encourage them to develop and go further. And I found it was easier the first time to do it just on a pen and paper way. And I bought some colored pencils, so they had pencils. Some of them had drawings, and I found it was really nice. My only thing with this, I would suggest is not do two big groups because the first time I did it, I had two big groups and not enough sheet for everybody to work at the same time. So I had like after group looking at each other, and so I would do smaller group or more sheets. Um, Yeah, and like Phil said, the build time without the screen is also good. And the fact that they wrote down and I wish I had a copy. I wanted to show you guys, but I couldn't find I know I scanned it, couldn't find it where I put it before this presentation. But you should see the stuff I got from my student. I was so proud. It was really nice and really detailed. And like by going around in the classroom and just asking them questions, it would help, and they had to go back in the notes and some of them add more stuff that I wanted. It was great. Yeah, that also, I really like the mind map collaborative way. I found it so much thing on it. You could do smaller one, but you could do one that's a scale because you can scale it like infinitely. You could do like this middle bubble could be your you could be the class title and just go around everything you see in the subject. That could be great too. Are using any like Google thing like Google Docs as a sharing to help. Also a free thing to share around. Or Google Slides, since it might be easier to go around. Also Google Drawing, that's true. That's a good one. I haven't used Google Drawing yet, but I heard great thing. I want to add it to my tool. I want to add it to my toolbox eventually. I just haven't had time to use it. I just discovered Google Drawing, please.
Tu peux wrap it. Si on manque d'autres questions.
Ouais, je pense que c'est écrit mon email. So I think nobody has more questions. I'm available to it's okay. Yeah, this is why also I like the Microsoft do it with a PowerPoint because it make it easier for the student to they usually work with PowerPoint. But me, all my students, I suggest all the same tool as you, and most of my students use one of these to do it because they wanted to try. I also give a bit of time in classroom just to go around with them to if they need a question with the program, I can help them. But yeah, some students have a little bit reluctant to do it, but I force everybody to do some sort of infographics to kind of help to understand. It's just to see if they understand, and while you write it down, they notice if you don't understand something, you have to go back and reread it, which was nice. So I'm gonna wrap up, but if everybody has a question, I'm happy to answer. I'll put my email in the chat. So if you want to email me, if you have further question or help with anything, it'll be my pleasure to help you, or just to build an activity for your classroom that would fit with your material. I'm really happy to assist you and help you develop something. So you can just write me an email and I'll help you. Maybe for next semester, if you want to do an activity, that could be nice. So very much for attending.